Let's go for it!
Everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host of the Dark Stuff channel here on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out the new video. Much appreciated, as always. So in today's video, I want to update you guys on two shows that I recently saw, a couple of pickups, and really that's about it. But I had to squeeze this in before a big work project starts for me, which starts in a couple hours. But fortunately, I went against type and actually prepared way in advance, which is not the norm for me. I work really good with deadlines, and then I take the time all the way up to the deadline to get everything finished. But in this case, I got everything finished in advance so I could cut this video real quick. So, start off with the first concert that I saw, and that was Superwolves, or it's Bonnie Prince Billy and Matt Sweeney performing together, and they call themselves Superwolves. Their albums are called Superwolves. Anyway, this was a big deal for me because of two main reasons. I mean, number one, I like Bonnie Prince Billy. I've liked his music for going back decades, when he used to be known as, Palace Brothers or Palace or whatever, and then he was he's Will Oldham is his real name, and then he changed to Bonnie Prince Billy, and all the various names that he's performed under: Palace Brothers, Palace Songs, Palace, probably a bunch of others. Really, really kind of heartbreaking country-ish sort of songs, really, really great, rootsy and stuff like that. And he performs with Matt Sweeney, and Matt Sweeney was actually, to be totally candid, the main reason why I wanted to go. I would have gone either way, but the main reason I wanted to go is because Matt Sweeney, long time ago, he says it was his high school band, used to be in this band called Skunk. Skunk started in, I think, 1989, 1990, and they were on Twin Tone Records, and they sounded like kind of like what Soul Asylum used to sound like back in the 80s, but with better lead guitar playing. So that was a nice bonus, and I've always loved this band. They broke up after 2 albums. They're pretty obscure. Matt Sweeney went on to be in the band's Chavez, which had a brief career on Matador Records in the mid-90s. He then was a member of the band Zwan with Billy Corgan. That was the group he formed for a little while after he broke up the Smashing Pumpkins, kind of in the early 2000s. And Paz, I don't remember how to pronounce her last name, who's the current bass player for the Pixies, was also in that group. He was a touring member of Guided by Voices. He's done all sorts of stuff. Really, really excellent guitar player. But I've never actually met him. We've interacted a little bit on Twitter. So in this case, I finally was able to meet him and talk to him, and I get a couple of records signed. So I forgot to get my, Skunk Laid CD, this is the all-time best Skunk record, in my opinion. This 1991, fantastic. And I had mentioned that I got to see Skunk, but I couldn't remember where I saw them, and I'm usually pretty good with venues and who played where, but for some reason I knew I was in Madison, and I knew I saw them at a place called the City Club, and when I asked him, did you guys open for Dinosaur Jr.? He said, no, we never opened for Dinosaur Jr., but he couldn't remember who they opened for, and he didn't know if it was the City Club. Granted, this was 1991. It was 31 years ago. But I looked it up, and I finally figured it out. It was the City Club, and Skunk was opening for The Fluid. So I got Skunk's first album, Last American Virgin. Wait, I gotta get the signature on there. Okay. There it is, signed by Matt Sweeney. Okay, Matt is... well, God, he's got so much less hair now. That's him right there back in the day. I had him sign this Chavez 7-inch for Repeat the Ending. This was their first single, right there. And then the most recent Chavez, when they got back together a few years ago and did a record called Cockfighters, and I've got him signed on that. This is really good, by the way. And I had a story to tell about how this Drastic Plastic and I never saw eye to eye after they were kind of jerks to me about that particular record. But look, Water Under the Bridge, they don't even exist anymore as a store, so what can you do?
Brought into the bowl the sun like a yoke around her, hiding in the kitchen the night.
So the show was really great, and the opportunity to meet Matt Sweeney was really awesome. I could have met Will Oldham too, and in fact, I had I had on me my, this Palace Brothers, and I had, Palace. Here's another Palace. This was Palace Brothers. Palace Songs. I wanted to talk to him, and I could have, but for some reason I was just nervous about doing it, and I started chatting up somebody else there at the show, and then they were wrapping it up and ready to leave, and so I didn't really take the opportunity. But great show. Again, Superwolves, which is Bonnie Prince Billy, formerly known as Palace Brothers, Will Oldham, should say, and then Matt Sweeney.
When I come to your street,
Okay, next up was the show that I mentioned in my last video, which was Parquet Courts. But Parquet Courts also had a fantastic opener in this guy, Mdou Moctar, who is, I think, the name of him and the band too. But anyways, he's a guitar player from Niger, and he was fucking phenomenal. Like, I couldn't believe how good this guy was. It was like he would get you in this trance with the way the band plays, very, very different, very, kind of, for lack of a better, Moroccan sounding, I don't know what most African music sounds like, and understanding Africa is a continent, not a country. I did point out he was from Niger, so don't make me look like an idiot, but it was just very, very cool. And the guy, I was like, this guy's like the Jimi Hendrix of Africa or something. He was so good, plays left-handed too, just constantly soloing and wailing. Really, really excellent. Unfortunately, I only got one video clip of them. The show was packed. After Mdou Moctar played, they played probably about 45 minutes to an hour almost. Parquet Courts came on as the headliners, and I have never seen Parquet Courts. This was the first time. I was supposed to see them years and years ago, but ended up being in this tiny little spot, and I couldn't make it. So I was glad to finally get to see them live. They were amazing live. I was actually sort of expecting them to be not as good, and especially after what I just witnessed with Mdou Moctar, I thought, I don't know, that's going to be a tough act to follow, and yet they were exceptional. cool little light show, and they sounded really great. And a lot of the newer stuff, which is what I realized at the show was, I initially got into Parquet Courts because they were sort of reminiscent of Pavement. That's kind of how they started out. But then quickly, they started moving into other sounds. And on their newest stuff, their last 2 albums maybe, they're sort of sounding more Talking Heads, like very rhythmic and just very different sounding for an indie rock band. So Parquet Courts was great live. They were phenomenal. Really, really, really good. If that tour is presented anywhere near where you go to see it. Even just one individually. Parquet Courts is worth seeing, and then Mdou Moctar is worth seeing. Putting them together was a stroke of genius. It was fantastic. Okay, and as far as records go, new stuff that I've gotten, I could say just the new Superchunk, Wild Loneliness. This is the new album. Got the CD. I should point out, because this is very timely, about a year ago I did a catalog ranking of Superchunk. Of course, it didn't include this, obviously, but I really love this record. It sounds, it's a lighter album, a little more acoustic feel, and it's different than their last album, of course. And one of the things that people who saw that video will note is in the late 90s, when Superchunk had their first kind of mellowing period, albums like Indoor Living and such, I really didn't like it that much. But you know what? In 1997, I was 26. I wasn't prepared for the band to mellow a little bit. Now it's 2022. I'm 51. I'm perfectly fine with a little mellower Superchunk. So this is just great. Obviously written during the pandemic, so there's a sort of a melancholy a little bit to it, a sort of feeling of wild loneliness and just being kind of lost in the situation. Really, really good. 12th album from Superchunk, I believe. I think it's the 12th. And was at the used store and picked up just a couple of things. First off was this Venom discography, or the Neat Records discography, which I think is just their earliest stuff. So it's called In Nomine Satanis, the Neat Anthology. So there you go. It's a lot of Venom. Two CDs, cool little booklet with all sorts of pictures of them and stuff. And I'm only familiar with a little bit of Venom, like Welcome to Hell and a couple of other songs, but I've always been sort of intrigued by them. And I always used to be, nervous about checking them out because they're supposed to be so extreme and they're so this and that. And it just goes to show that something that appeared extreme or seemed extreme decades ago doesn't always seem quite as extreme now. And although it's still raw and pretty aggressive, it doesn't seem nearly as extreme as like what extreme metal sounds like now. So this is an enjoyable pickup. And then last, I picked up this Black Sabbath live album, Live at Last. I remember having this on vinyl, and stupidly I got rid of it, and it's apparently worth a lot. But anyway, just a good live show with Ozzy, one of the many live records that Black Sabbath has put out over the years. Not especially great sonically, but a good recording nevertheless. All right, folks, that's pretty much it. I wanted to squeeze everything in before I had to go back and do a bunch of work. So let me know what you think of this stuff. I'll be back as soon as I can. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.